We can finally start this podcast that I wanted to start 6 hours ago, but you had so many non-things to do.
A lot of non-things. I'm very busy.
Like sleep or relax after eating a burger.
No. I actually had to prepare my week. We spent the morning doing like a bunch of pasta for friends. So, nothing like homemade pasta.
Great. Stop moving your chair and proving things to people. So for those who didn't know, no, I'm not talking to myself about me and making fun of me. This is actually my sister, but yes, like most people, everybody's gonna say, you guys have the same voice, you speak the same way. Yeah. We're six, so get ready for that. Anyways.
What makes a hero?
What makes a hero?
Intro that I made you listen, what makes a hero, I just wanted you to know why I said that, because one day my sister told me about this interesting story that made me think about heroism, and what makes people the way they are, what makes people stick to their convictions too when it's time to make a crucial choice that could not only save their lives but save other people's lives. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the story came at a certain point where I wasn't expecting it. I think we were driving to go see our father. When did you tell me that? I was driving. I remember that.
I really don't remember how it came about and how you had never heard of the story before.
I had never heard of it. I'm going to tell you how I think this is when you told me. I'm pretty sure this is when you told me. I think we were driving to see our father who was at the hospital. And then there was somebody like on the Champlain Bridge that was kind of driving. Driving funny, and I was like, I am moving. I'm not staying in
That's
that
exactly,
lane.
yes, that's it.
Yes, okay, so that's what I thought. I said, I'm not staying in that lane. And you said, well, you know what? Once upon a time, what did you say?
I said that our sister, our other sister, once upon a time we were driving. We were driving at night to New York. It was like maybe 1, 2 a.m.
To New York or from New York?
To New York.
Okay, I thought you were coming back, okay.
No, we were driving to New York because it was our aunt's 50th wedding anniversary. The story is about New York. Most of our family's stories are about that place because so many ludicrous stories happen in New York. It's just the adventure that keeps on giving.
Okay.
So, we left after work. So New York is at about like a 7-8 hour drive from where we live. So we all left. There was me, my sister, my oldest kid, and our dad. Well, I kept saying but it's our sister or dad in the car.
Because I have that reflex too, so I don't care.
We were in the car driving, and the first shift of driving was actually she drove the entire way, if I'm not mistaken. She did it like a champ. Our sister drove from Montreal to New York. We got there, I think it was 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. She drove the entire way. Most of the audience they don't know me. A lot of you are my friends, but I'm sure I've never told you this, and maybe I have in other podcasts, but you know what? I'm old, so sometimes I forget. So I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. I'm number 2, and the one who's talking with me is number 3. The one who's driving is number 4, and Sandrine is number 5 down the list. And the last one who's closing in is my little brother, but he's not in the story. I believe my older brother is in the story and he's number one. And I think I just made it more confusing for you, but you know what? This is life. At some point, we're on the road on the highway. There are there's no cars. There's just one other car. It's like a little, the cars that at the time the little 20-year-olds or 17, 18-year-olds have.
What kind of car is it?
It's kind of like a Prelude. It was a Honda. It was a kind of like the little speedy hatchback Hondas.
It was a he, right?
Yeah, it was a he. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we didn't know at the time, but it was. The car was in front of us and it was swerving, but it was like 1 or 2 a.m.
Before you say that, it's 1 or 2 a.m., okay? And you're going to New York. Where was your other kid?
She wasn't born.
She wasn't born yet.
No, she wasn't born yet. And we were like, the family, we had split into 2 cars. So some people were going to leave early in the morning.
Okay.
And we decided, because Dad didn't want to be late, and it was his sister, so we decided that we were going to leave, that same night, so he would come, there on time and
be there on time because my dad is like that. He freaks out about things like that. He has to always be on time.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
So the rest of them, like Miche, Sullivan, all these other.
They were in another car. They were driving with, I think it's Sandrin's.
Okay, that was like, they were driving in another car.
Yeah.
And then, so it's 1 or 2 a.m. and you were wearing the Adirondacks?
I think so. It was really dark. And it's all trees. Well, I guess most of the road when you go to New York is like that.
Mm-hmm. But there's one point going to New York and coming back from New York that's really, really dangerous. It's in the mountain.
I think that's about where we were.
Yeah, that's the Adirondacks.
The Adirondacks. The mountain name I have difficulty saying. Apparently, that's a word that comes from the Mohawk. I think it was Adirondack, which means eater of trees. Or eaters. Sometimes my French accent comes out. Eaters of trees. So that's where, I think, a lot of Algonquins, the Mohawks, Mohicans, they lived in that area. Anyways, they were the first settlers there, and it was a hunting ground. But for you who don't know, it's somewhere around it's in the state of New York, so it's North New York. It's by the border of Canada. I don't think it crosses Canada, but it's somewhere around Lake George, Lake Placid. There's a bunch of lakes. I think there's maybe more than 200 lakes around that area. It's beautiful. It's green. It's lush. It's something to see. It's something to stay at. Also, it's gorgeous. If you ever have a chance to go there, you really have to drive with your high beams. It's not the most dangerous road in the world, but it's not great when you've been driving for hours and you're sleepy. It's there have been accidents there, so you have to be careful. That's pretty much it. I think but seriously, it's like 10 years ago, so I can't remember exactly, but it was really dark. It's like, if you get there and you haven't, at those days, cell phones, we had cell phones, but they weren't that common, so something happens, you're pretty much on your own on that road.
Okay.
It was,
Chair is making a lot of noise. Your handles.
Oh, sorry.
But, no, I just wanted to say, okay, all right. I wasn't there for that trip. I think I was in Afghanistan. The way you're talking about it, I think I was there at that time.
Yeah, it could have been. I know you weren't there.
There's only one place. If the other one wasn't born, then I was probably there.
In Afghanistan, yeah. That's quite possible. That's probably it. That, or you were in...
Yeah, whatever. Where else? Whatever other place.
Yes.
No, I was probably there. Because it was always in the Middle East at that time.
Yeah, and yes, and since Brooklyn was born and Michaela wasn't, that's probably that time.
Anyways, we digress. So that happens, and then okay, so you see a car that's what she's driving. It's 1 or 2 a.m., which I still don't understand why it was so dangerous, because it's still 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning.
And you know what? Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it was like 11 midnight, because I'm thinking, well, maybe more midnight, because I'm thinking about it, and with the timing to New York, I don't think it was the Adirondacks at 1 or 2, because I'm pretty sure we got there, it was like 3. Oh, did we get there at 6 o'clock in a.m.? Wow, I would have to check. So yeah, I think it was 1 or 2 a.m. Anyways.
Okay, for those who don't understand, we live really close to the U.S. border. We live about 30 to
45 minutes.
About 45 minutes from the border. So 40 minutes, and then after that you have a small drive. You're in Vermont, blah blah blah, and after that you go through the Adirondacks. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't have been like that close, because after that it's pretty flat. Like I think you have like the cross into Albany, and then you continue, and it's straight to New York.
Yeah, exactly. Albany is like the next big.
Yes,
that's where you would do your rest stop, and like, we're almost in New York, but you still have a few hours to go.
Exactly. I think it's the midpoint, Albany.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And then after that, it takes about 6 hours if you drive by yourself. If you take the bus, it takes about 8 hours, 9 hours, maybe more, just to get to New York, from Montreal to New York, because it stops.
Yeah, if you maybe with no stops, but I'm pretty sure. 6-7 hours, I would say.
Yeah, no, but if you drive, it's 6 hours. I've always done it in 6 hours.
Somebody's not following the limit.
Yeah, they have all these Vipers and these fast cars on the highway.
Yeah, I know.
To catch. But I pretty much like,
could be 6.5 hours maybe.
It takes usually that. By bus, it's torture, because it's long. I think sometimes you have 2 stops. And
there's always somebody eating nasty food.
Yes.
And you're always waiting for somebody at a bus, like at one of the stops, that they don't understand the concept of it's a 15-minute stop. It's like,
it's just nasty.
Yeah, and then at the border, there's always that person who don't have their documents, or and they forgot at home. They didn't understand the concept of crossing a border, and
it's long. It's the border that's the longest part. I find, because there's always a problem with someone. So you just have to wait. If you go through the border with your own car, it's pretty easy. It's pretty quick. You don't even get out of your car. You don't have to go to the border agent. You just you're in your car. He processes you. Blah blah blah. If you go by bus, you have to get out. You come with your luggage. It's just long. So my recommendation, if you're traveling to Canada or outside of Canada, just drive your own car. It'll be just easier. Because also getting back on the bus from New York, that's a chance that you're taking, because there might not be a bus or access. It's happened to me so many times where I couldn't get on the bus, or mom, she would just decide to stay. I'm not.
But then I don't think that's the bus's company's fault. I think that's just our parents, where they're like, we'll just buy a ticket, and if there's place on the bus, we're gonna.
No, I think it's the bus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're always saying you come for the 10 o'clock, and they're like, oh no, there's too many people. Take
they overbook,
and then take the midnight bus, and it's always a really long bus. They overbook everything, and some people have to wait for the one that starts at 5 a.m. So they're pretty. I find the bus companies are pretty crooked. Anyways, we're digressing.
Yes.
And probably most of it I won't use. But anyways, so basically you're driving, and then there's this car that's swerving. That nice.
Well, and I guess to set the mood is it's really dark. It's super late. Everybody's sleeping in the car except Farah's driving, and I'm not sleeping because I'm in the passenger seat, and obviously you don't want to fall asleep because you don't want to leave.
That. No. At first I'm like, you know what? I can't make it. Bye. Good night.
I would have to be very tired to do that, but no, show of support. We're staying talking, and then we're driving, and we see that that car. It was a white car that's swerving, and I'm like, oh my gosh. The car is swerving, pass it, because, we're gonna have an accident. And my sister's like, pass it? No, I'm not passing it. He's gonna have an accident. So for like about half an hour, she stayed right behind the car, and then every time it would swerve, she would hit the highlights, highlights. So, and then that would just like shock the car, and the guy would like.
I mean the
high beams.
High beams.
Yes.
Yeah.
She would hit the high. She would flick them. She would put the high beams, like I guess blind the guy, and then he'd be like.
He'd wake up.
Yes, exactly. So like really for half an hour she did it, and at some point she was like, okay, at some point he's gonna understand. Go on the side of the road, because you're
gonna die.
You're too tired to drive, and so a half an hour. She's like, okay, now we see him finally. He pulls over after about half an hour, and I guess he got it. And then he was just we just go by. And we see him. It was like the guy must have been like 19, 20 years old with his girlfriend sleeping in the car beside him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the guy, that was gonna be your last weekend, man. This was like, so it was really cool. So we just passed him, and then we saw, okay, he stopped, so he's good. And then we just continued, and we're like, oh, we're tired too, so maybe the next rest stop, we're gonna go get coffee or do a quick stop. And then as we're on the road, at some point there's like a car that comes speeding by, and then the guy just slows down and just nods like to say thank you. So that was really cool.
Thank you very much.
On, and then at the next rest stop we kind of saw him, but like we knew it was him because we stayed half an hour behind his car, but I don't think he recognized us, and we're like, okay, he had his coffee and he was resting, so we're like, okay, so he's taking he got it. So I'm pretty sure this day my sister not being like thinking more about just not. Is it selfish? I guess it's a selfish way to say, oh no, let's just swerve and move because the person's.
I would have said, like, who is that crazy drunk person? Get away from me! I'm leaving. That's not what I would have thought.
That's why
I'm like, no.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm saying I probably selfish is not the right word. But she did go above and beyond, where she's like, no, this is another human. They obviously need help. The way I can help them is just by making sure that, nothing happens to them and making sure they stay awake. So for me, that moment was like a great moment that showed her, like, her character. Like a very good...
that's a really good character trait, because that's not how I would have done it. I don't know if I would have done the same thing. I would be like, no, bye, freak, I'm leaving you. And that person probably would have died.
Yeah, or I really had a nasty accident, because it was, it's like you fall into the woods or the hills, like the...
Yeah, it's a ravine. That's why I think, like, the way you were describing it the first time, it seemed like you were in the Adirondacks. And it's like, it's you... There's two lanes, and then it's the edge.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And then you die.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like super dark, so
there are no
maybe
lights.
Nobody would have found them anyway. So yeah, that would have been. So no, that was it. And I like the fact that he just gave a nod, and.
I really wonder if that person will ever remembers that moment, or they acknowledge that moment.
I have no idea.
I really am.
I don't know.
Curious.
All I remember is him passing us, and then I still remember his girlfriend sleeping beside him, like never knowing that she almost died. He just passed out, but it was so late. Like, that's what you do at that time. You crash, because it's late. But we all do it when we're young. That's the thing. Like, even now, we left like after work. I think we left like it was maybe 11 or midnight, or like I can't remember what time, but it was pretty late when once we left to make the trip. It was super late, but that's not something I would probably do now. But when you're like young in your 20s,
That's true.
That's like, what's a 7-hour trip, not sleeping, and you just finished a div shift. You have a little kid with you. You don't care.
Yeah, that's true. That's not how you think. That's why I'm like, I was surprised. The reason why I'm telling the story is because I find it interesting. Because not everybody would think like that. And not everybody would, like, that's why I didn't even bother calling her. Because I know she's not going to say that story. But she probably doesn't think like that also. She doesn't think that what she did was
extraordinary
or heroic.
Yeah.
Or heroic, I should say. But this is what, it's not because it's a family member. It's just because it's like one of those stories that you kind of never hear about. And you never actually tend to stop and question. It's like, oh my god, would I do that? And is that heroic?
Yeah, because it's not a big act of she didn't fall down a ravine, then she single-handedly went and saved them from a car and fire or anything. It's just
like one thing that probably saved another person's life without even knowing.
Yep.
If it would actually, without the other person or anybody else really knowing if the final impact that it would have on someone's life. That's what I thought was really interesting. And that's pretty much it. Because and I remember like driving also when I was young. Also, I wanted to add that point. I've driven so many times and I was really tired, and sometimes you just don't want to stop because you just want to get there. I don't know what it is with that route. You just don't want to stop. You just want to, and there's so many rest stops. And I've stopped sometimes and I'm like, okay, I'm just like sleeping. And you know who's the worst person?
Yeah, I know.
Never wants to stop.
The amount of times
he's like,
when we were teenagers and going out and he was driving, I would never, and that's one of the reasons why I don't sleep when somebody is driving, and I just stay up, because when he was driving and we were coming back from parties, he would always be super tired, but he would not let you. I didn't know how to drive at that time, but you knew, and he would never let you drive, but we would see him fall asleep. So I'd be like in the back seat, and I had my plan to grab the wheel if I needed to, because it would never, ever, but I think lack of sleep while driving, that's why they say it's dangerous. It makes you don't reason well. You don't like...
Yeah, but that was extreme, and I'm like, what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? You can't do it, you're tired, it's fine. Somebody else will do it.
Yes. Yeah, no, for sure, but I really think that the amount of times that I drove to and I was like starting to see double and things like that, but you just want to go home.
I know that need to just wanting to go home, that's great. But you know how many times...
Well, actually, it's not great. We should all stop.
Well, no, it's not great. You're right. It's like, it's something. But, like, there's nothing that tells you that you can't just stop and take a 15-minute nap. And a lot of the times, just from Montreal to go back home on the South Shore, I'd be like, I just want to go home. It's winter. But the amount of time that I just, like, took a 15-minute nap, I'm like, I'm going to sleep, even though I'm a little bit tipsy. And when I get cold, that's when I'll wake up. And I'll be able to drive. I did that so many times because I was like, no, if I drive, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to make it.
No, that's true.
Never going to make it. I don't know. Now I kind of want to call.
Well, call her.
Yeah, but I can't, like, record and call at the same time. You call.
Neurotic